Hey, how's it going? Today we are going to play some games with Regidrago because it has won back-to-back regionals with two pretty different lists, and yeah, might just still be the best deck in the format, even though it seems like for a little bit it was kind of being written off in favor of Dusknoir decks and Terapagos and stuff like that. The regional this weekend was won with a Regidrago deck list that you could have seen played at Worlds. Now the regional 2 weekends ago was also won by Regidrago. It is minus Iono and Fourth Vessel for a 1/1 Noctowl line, which seems pretty good in the deck in theory, but the deck still functions really well as it has ever since Ogerpon came out. So the idea with this deck, we got Regidrago. It's a dragon Pokemon with an attack for fire, grass. It copies the attacks of any dragon Pokemon in our discard pile, and there's a few really good dragon attackers. Dragapult's the main attacker with Phantom Dive. It does 200 to the active and spreads 6 damage to the bench. We have Giratina VSTAR that it can copy for 280. We have to Lost Zone 2 energy, so that is a little bit costly, but we can just Lost Zone them off of the Ogerpons. And we also have the Kyurem that we have to discard all the energy, but it does 110 to 3 Pokemon. So this is like a great finisher, or it can be an early game option if we can get an attack going without using our V-Star power. I really am hesitant to ever use this attack unless I'm winning the game if I've already used the V-Star power, because it can be really difficult to get an attack the next turn. Even if we have guaranteed attack in our hand, we can get Iono'd and have trouble finding those cards, so I usually stay away from that unless I can guarantee an attack next turn with V-Star, or just finish the game off with maybe Radiant Charizard or something like that. Now Radiant Charizard is a great fit in this deck because Regidrago is a little costly to keep up and running, so just having the Radzard to finish games off for one attachment is pretty excellent. Yeah, other than that, the lists are kind of the same. We got the, Ogerpons to accelerate the energies, and then we energy switch over to the Regidrago. We got the Cleffa in here. It's just a great option to have a 1-prizer in the active. We can also take turns off sometimes during the game to draw some cards if we have nothing better that we can do. When I made this, I grabbed Alberto Conte's old list from 2 regionals ago, and he played a penny over a switch in that one, so I will be playing a penny in this video. But yeah, that's the list. Let's get into the games. Alright, so this is the first game, and here I accidentally go to click to accept the mulligan and hit the scroll wheel on my mouse and scroll up to 0, and I was gonna emote a frowny face because that's kind of unfortunate. This hand definitely could have benefited from an extra card, especially another Nest Ball or an energy or something like that, because now I'm pretty much gonna have to Squawkabilly this hand away, which it kind of feels bad getting rid of an energy switch and a Regidrago V-Star, where if I had a Grass Energy I could have just gotten an Ogerpon and used the ability and then energy switched it over and then seen what I got, and then maybe Ultra Balled for a Squawkabilly. It kind of worked out decent this way though, because I was able to get the Dragapult into the discard pile with the Squawkabilly. That's something that I definitely like to do with this deck, is just instead of Ultra Balling for an Ogerpon or something like that, while I have the chance to discard an attacker, I just grab it and throw it away. Now this hand is not really great. Next turn I might just have to Ultra Ball away Super Rod and Boss's Orders and get V-Star and just use the ability right away, which is kind of unfortunate, but maybe we could top deck something, or like I said, if worse comes worse, I'll use the V-Star and get the Iono back. For some reason the audio from the game didn't record during this game, which is kind of unfortunate, but we do end up top decking the Iono. That is very nice. Getting rid of Super Rod and Boss doesn't necessarily feel great, but it's better than getting rid of energy switches. It kind of sucks also putting the energy switches to the bottom, but there's already one in the discard pile that I can get back if I really need to. Now, if I could get into an energy switch off this Ogerpon, I could just use the Kyurem attack to get rid of Duskull, Pidgey, and Charmander. Is probably what I would do, but we don't end up getting into that, so don't really have to worry about it. Here I'm just debating attaching the fire and using Cleffa, like attach fire, play Jamming Tower, maybe bench Radiant Charizard. I don't know, that is kind of a liability to get stuck in the active. Probably keep that in my hand and then use Cleffa, but I probably am just going to end up going for the V-Star to get some tempo. Now, I was going to get back Nest Ball Energy Switch to just grab another Regidrago, but I milled my Prime Catcher, and I think the second boss, I don't know, I'll have to see when I go back through there. Either way, milling Prime Catcher does feel pretty terrible. So I just get that back, and I was going to retreat and knock out, you know, the active, and I couldn't decide between Pidgey and Duskull. So I just used the Prime Catcher and knocked them both out. Now they just have two, wow, I just like completely forgot what I was gonna say. Now they just have two Charmanders. I do think in hindsight though, it might have been correct to just take the 3 prize turn on Rotom and Pidgey probably. Yeah, Rotom and Pidgey, because then if they pop the pop a Dusknoir, all I have to do is knock out one Charizard to win the game. So I think that might have been the better choice here. They do end up benching 2 more liabilities though, which is kind of good for me. That puts me in a good spot. At this point in the game, they probably shouldn't have benched Pidgey and Duskull. I kind of see the idea, like if you're going to bench one, you should bench both, so at least you'll have access to one of them. But I don't know, it kind of just makes it too easy for me to just like take a 3 prize turn here, skip over Briar and all that shenanigans, and win the game on the next turn with a Kyurem attack, because they're gonna have the at least the Duskull. Unless they go Candy Dusknoir, then that wouldn't work, but they should still have a liability on my bench for me to knock out next turn. And I do end up getting into the perfect cards with the Fezandipiti. I can guarantee 2 Ogerpons with Grass Energy on them, so I can knock out the Charizard next turn pretty handily. And also the boss's orders to bring up the Rotom and knock out Rotom Pidgey. Here I was debating hitting into the Fezandipiti for 200 and knocking out the Pidgey, but that just leaves a little too much room for my opponent to make plays. I'm just going to take the 3 prize turn, knock out the Pidgey. Now they need Candy Dusknoir and Candy Charizard, and the Candy Dusknoir isn't benefiting them in any way except getting the HP high enough to not be knocked out by Kyurem, and getting 2 of their last 3 candies without access to Pidgeot is going to be really difficult for them. Oh, and I forgot, they get all mad here, and yeah, just basically timeout, so I'm just going to fast forward this. Yeah, I totally forgot about that. Here they just sit there and let the game promote, and then they evolve to a Dusclops, which is kind of random. I guess that they were showing that they would have game if I didn't do that. Like they just Dusclops my Cleffa, and then Briar knock out my active, and that would have let them win the game. Right, okay. Dragapult. Now, this is like a pseudo mirror match because the main attackers are going to just be Dragapult back and forth unless I get a chance to use Kyurem. So I'm kind of inherently advantaged, or Regidrago is basically advantaged in this matchup because we're only have to evolve once. We don't need rare candies, and we're basically doing the same thing, but I have more options as the Drago player. The only advantage they have is higher HP, but I don't know how much of an advantage that really is. All right, now this is I don't know if I did this right at all. I definitely could have gotten just Nest Ball for Squawkabilly and Squawk the hand away, but instead I Nest Ball for Ogerpon, going the super greedy route, and figured that I get 2 Ogerpon chances to either hit a draw supporter or another energy switch. And really I was hoping for a draw supporter because I needed energy switch and fire energy. I probably should have just grabbed grass fire off of the vessel if I was going to do that play, but I figured I wanted double grass so that I could guarantee 2 Ogerpon uses, and then I did just draw into an Ogerpon or a grass energy off the first Ogerpon use. Yeah, I don't know, that was a little bit questionable. Probably a little too greedy and just a bad play. I would have had a better chance to donk them by just getting Squawkabilly. So probably shouldn't have gone with that, but you know, here we are. Now, I don't think I have any. Yeah, I only have Giratina VSTAR in the discard pile right now. That's kind of unfortunate. Really would have liked it. If I had a Kyurem here, I could just attach and use Kyurem and be in a really like just almost guaranteed win spot. All I would need next turn is a way to knock out Rotom or a Dragapult boss or something like that to knock out Rotom and the Pidgey. Because I would just knock out the 3 Dreepies with the Kyurem if I could. Giving them Pidgeot isn't great, but I can knock out Pidgeot with Giratina VSTAR and they can't attack next turn if I knock out all their Dreepies. So I do just use the VSTAR and just basically get a way to use Dragapult as an attack. It's not, you know, it's kind of underwhelming, but I am able to also get an Ogerpon to start drawing. And now I can knock out their Dracloak and Pidgey and be ahead on the prize trade. Now the end of this game is going to kind of get a little weird because the only real downfall as the Regidrago player is that I have the frail Pokemon on my bench. They have 1 Rotom, but I have 2 Ogerpons that can pretty easily be knocked out. They can just spread like, really they could take a 4 prize turn next turn by like counter catcher this turn, hit an Ogerpon, and then if they can boss or counter catcher next turn, which they do opt to go for that play. And another thing, they can also knock out my Ogerpon and my Drago if they can get down Alakazam and move 2 damage to the Drago because it's going to be in the active. Move 2 damage off the Ogerpon to the Drago and then knock out the active Drago and the Ogerpon off the bench. But I do basically get another Drago established, which is pretty nice. That's kind of what I had to do to be in this game. Now I can hit into them. I want to put at least 4 damage on the Dracloak on the bench so that I can Giratina their second Dragapult if I need to. I don't know, the damage isn't super meaningful anywhere. Like I would need 8 on the Rotom to make it so I could Kyurem it, and I'm not going to get 8 on the Rotom this turn. So I just put 4 on the bench Dracloak. So that means if they don't evolve it, I can knock it out. And if it comes down to it, I can also just knock it out with a Giratina attack. Now this is like where the matchup isn't super great. As you can see, they're going to take a 4 prize, or not a 4 prize turn, but they actually kind of messed this up, I think. They should not have used Hawlucha. They probably should have tried to get that Alakazam play like I was saying. But either way, they're threatening game next turn because I have no way to heal. I already used the penny, and I'm going to have to edit the beginning because I forgot to talk about how I took Alberto Conti's older list and it had a penny, but for this regionally one, he changed the penny into a switch card. Definitely got to talk about that in the intro. And they basically get everything they need this turn. They evolve up their bench guy, so I can't make it so that they can't attack with Dragapult next turn. And yeah, I have no way to win this turn, but I just have to hope that they don't get a Fire Energy for their bench guy. And that's really all I can do. I probably wouldn't Iono them if I could. They haven't been doing much with their hand all game. Even though they did like Ultra Ball. They Ultra Balled away a Crispin and I think another draw supporter earlier in the game, which was probably a mistake. But that is kind of like saying they have more in their hand, but I think that they just made a mistake because they haven't been doing much else. They've kind of been living off the top deck. And I just stare at my hand for a little bit. There's really nothing that I can do except hope that they don't have a Fire Energy. Just put 1 on the Hawlucha in case they retreat to a different 1 prizer or something. And I can just knock that out. And I just put a couple on the Rotom and then the other one on the Hawlucha. I don't really think that damage is super meaningful anywhere in this matchup at the moment. I almost think I'd be better off with just attacking with Goodrix. It's the 200 mainly that is going to be useful. So they counter catcher and Iono, just trying to hit that fire energy off of their 4 cards. They do have a good amount of cards in deck. Looks like 20 something. And yeah, 21. So there was pretty solid odds for them to hit it. I would think they didn't use their vessel. They had 2 fires left, assuming none were prized. And yeah, but they don't end up hitting it. And I'm sure that there's something better that I could have done during that game. I didn't quite see it on the when I was watching it back though. I kind of got distracted talking about, I don't even remember what I was talking about, where to put the damage counters or whatever. So yeah, probably could have done something better that game. Probably just nest balling for Squawkabilly as the first action would have been better than what I did. I could have either donked them or gotten a better setup to Kyurem them next turn and just kind of lock them out of the game. But yeah, that is Regidrago. I did make a guide on how to play Regidrago. Most of it hasn't changed. The only thing that I think really changed is there's like, I talk about whether to play the Gudra V-Star or the Iron Leaves or whatever, but now I think the real debate is whether to play Noctowl or not. And it seems fine without the Noctowl, but the benefits of the Noctowl are you're more likely to get whatever attack you want without using the V-Star power, which means you can cure them earlier more often, which is really strong. So yeah, like it if you liked it, dislike the video if you didn't, comment and subscribe. Thank you, take care, and have a good one.